Come on, everybody, let's start the show. A quick ahoy hoy and away we'll go. Richard's got a minifig and Flynn's got a pin. The gang's all here and it's time to begin. Tricky Bricks roll call. Moto, Holly, Cara, and sometimes Blair, Clicky, Logan, Ms. Thing and Angela, and Thunderman Ho! Now you're here to grab your bricks and let's go to the Tricky Bricks Build and Chat Show! Ahoy, ahoy, friends! Everyone. How's it going, everybody? Great to see you on a Sunday morning. We're back. We're back home. We've gone through the wormhole, back over here to Oakland from Portland. And
Wait, is that minifig chick right there? Okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We're not going to do that. We're going to do that to you again, folks. But that was a truly epic show last weekend. I couldn't believe it.
It was like laughing.
It was like laughing. We needed little doors, and 5 people will know what laughing is, but that's okay. I can see Brian is desperately Googling laughing right now. Yes, like he does. Exactly. All right. So everybody, we have got a full house today, including some special guests that I am so excited about. You guys so excited. So first of all, though, let's welcome on our cast of irregulars. We've got last week's hostess with the mostess. It's Holly. Hi, Holly.
Oh, hi. I miss you guys.
I miss you too. You know, I wanted to also, while we were here, give a really big shout out to, first of all, Holly's family for putting up with us and then all of us. And also a special big shout out to Holly's husband, who did so much work in making last week happen and having everybody with an internet connection and microphones. And it was really, he did a lot of work behind the scenes. So thank you, sir, for that. That was awesome.
Eric, I said thank you.
And next up, we have got back through the wormhole into Colorado. It is Moto. Hi, Moto.
Ahoy, hoy.
Ahoy, hoy. How's it going?
Howdy. It's going well.
And you can tell from his shirt there, Moto loves Amy and Jamie. We do too.
Indeed. So next up,
this is my episode shirt. Whenever we review an episode, I'm going to put on the Amy and Jamie.
And of course, she is one of our Tricky Brick stalwarts here from the very, very beginning. It's Minifig Chick. Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Cara.
How's it going?
Good. I have to point out that Debo says I am the Ruth Buzzy of Tricky Lug. He's of himself.
So then, I mean, just to mix our metaphors, that must be Paul in the background then.
So
exactly.
Now, and we have sometimes AEIU and sometimes Blair. Hi, Blair.
Hey, Blair. And Tiny Blair.
And Rick Blair is here with you.
Well, we had to have Rick Blair.
We had to have Rick Blair for this episode in particular. Also, please welcome internet sensation and special guest Bricks O'Brien. Hi, Brian.
Brian.
Hello.
What's going on? How are you? It's been a while. We didn't get to see you last week. It was a full house. You couldn't make it before the wormhole closed.
Yeah, you know, it was a busy week, but I am very happy to be here to jump back into it and talk about all the Lego Masters stuff.
Oh, yes.
You're dressed as a Jedi today.
Yes. Well, it's very dark and cloudy and stormy over here, so I have to fit a little bit of the tone, you know, be a little mysterious.
Indeed.
Yeah, we were wondering if you were going to show up last weekend, Brian.
No, he messaged me before and said he wasn't able to make it. But we were hoping. We kept that wormhole open as long as we could. Doctor Strange was like working the magic, and it just closed right before he was able to get through. So that's how it goes.
That's cool.
But you're here. So who else is here? And y'all, I'm so excited about this. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So I'm so excited they were able to join us today. Please welcome from season 2, Maria and Philip.
Yay!
Yes.
Hey,
What's up?
Goodness.
Oh, hi.
Hey.
Welcome.
I know. I said I gotta save some surprises, even for the panel.
wow.
I have to sometimes.
Hi, guys.
Leave some
Hi, Moto.
surprises for
Moto.
them too.
Good to see you again.
It's great to see you. How are you?
Oh, we're terrific.
They're fantastic.
Excellent.
Look at this. Look at all those drawers behind you. We need more drawers, Flynn.
We do need more drawers. Many more drawers.
Tiny drawers are the answer.
It's funny because like every time we do pop on a stream or something like that, it forces us to clean up the space because they always end up like not in the drawers. So
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
You know how that
Push all
goes.
the drawers in.
yeah, we often talk
That's
about
the nice thing
how
about drawers.
everything
Yeah.
outside of this frame is, like it's like a nightmare, but we just
Yeah.
try to keep it together.
completely clear over here. Like there's just like buckets of Lego all around us.
Do you ever have that incredulous thing happen? Like we started out with these tiny little hardware drawers, and it's like a 3x3 matrix, and I'll be going like, oh, tiny part, tiny part, tiny part, and then my brain breaks if one of the drawers is missing. Like, what happened to the system?
I know the drawer. Where's
It's in
the
another
drawer?
room.
It's moved.
Yes. Or if I'm trying to keep like categories together and then I get one more drawer, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Where does it go?
Or like if the drawers weren't in any particular organization, but you'd gotten used to them, and then at one point when you're putting them back, you switched them, and then you realize,
Yeah.
wow, I knew
Yes.
exactly where that drawer was until I moved it.
Or if your wife comes through and changes the order of everything.
I'm still trying to find stuff. I have a question though. Do
Yes.
you guys have a drawer or drawers of shame that are just
No, we have bins.
I was thinking bins is more correct. So
I-
there is a bin of shame right there.
I try to make it okay by calling them spaceship parts.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous.
We definitely have the weird part.
Hey.
Yeah, we have so like our friend Drew got us these little paper like French fry trays to use like takeout trays to use as sorting trays, and they're great, and especially great when you're building, but they tend to collect all the extra pieces from sets, and I've got now 4 or 5 of them that are just filled with extra pieces. Yes. It's all the little stuff, right? All the stuff
I-
that
I have a
pain to
lot
put
of
away.
I have a lot of sorting trays.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Sorting
Yeah.
trays.
The problem we find isn't so much filling up the bowls, it's the 5th or 6th or 8th layer of bowls, and then you're wondering what's on the bottom.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like when you're working on a
It's funny
project.
because it's true.
And Brian's like, that's why I don't build mocks.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of drawers that I'd have to get, you know? I mean, Abby in the chat says I call them niblets. I actually call those little pieces itty bitties. I don't know what the proper
Itty-bitties.
term is, but all the little ones.
Niblets is pretty appropriate, I have to say.
I call them bitty bits, so it's pretty close. Bitty
Oh
bits.
my goodness. Well,
Do you guys
what
have?
a-
Do you guys
what a
have?
great group we have here today. I'm so excited. I'm sorry, somebody was going to say something. I missed it.
Moto.
Oh, Moto.
I realized I had another broken piece. I was wondering if you guys have a bag of like stuff that you've shattered.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all dark brown and dark red. Oh,
Yeah,
there you go. There you go.
Sometimes they
my,
can still
my
be
computer,
used.
so when I'm sitting at it, it reminds me of the shame that I've committed to the Lego bricks.
Do you keep those broken like 1 by N dark brown plates thinking sometime I'm going to need one of these 4.5?
Oh, I'm the worst. I do that. I'm like, oh no, this will just go under something. Nobody will see it. And then,
Mhm.
and then when it gets to the building, I'm like, I can't use this. It's broken.
I've seen some cool mocks though, where people have salvaged them and used them for like wood chipper or weird stuff. You know, like there's ways to salvage them.
Yeah, I'm like completely against like modifying pieces other than maybe like the flex tube, but like I kind of feel like if it breaks and it's like the reddish brown, it's legit. I think that you should
That
be
is
able to.
legit.
Oh, it's like a message from the Lego universe. It's okay.
This one's okay.
So
Yeah, well, look, you
let's-
definitely don't want
wanna-
to come to my house.
Just want to take a real quick second to give a shout out to everybody who's here in the chat watching today. Let's
Sitting
see
your
who
mom.
all is here. So don't forget to say hello in the chat. Here we go. My mom's here. Hi, Mom. First of all, gotta start off this with Mom. Mom's here. We got Abby the Brick Squirrel, Alexander 23, Brickaroo Bonsai, Bricks O'Brien here everywhere at once, on screen in the chat. We've got Bricks with Justin, Chris Boson, and Captain Jaden Chalice. How's it going, guys? Darren Siegfried, Fabufan MKE, Debo Bricks is here. Darren Siegfried, Debo did a great job hosting the pun show with us.
I know, thanks for that.
That was fantastic. Had a great time.
We have Hooded One.
Hooded One is here. Jeff Kremer, how's it going? Joel, Pokeball, Dameron, Marbella. We've got John Luttrell and Vicky. Hello.
Vicky.
Johnny Cat. Hey, Johnny. Lisa Head is here. Hey, Lisa. Matthew Builds Bricks. We've got, starting off the Incapades, Matthew Builds Bricks, Minifig Chick, Monica Berry, and Moto. And PT McEwen is here. And PT, thanks so much for the viewer mail that we opened on Wednesday. So much fun. Thank you. Patrick Wismer is here. Rob Zaccardi and the Zaccardis, hello, and have been on vacation. Son, the girls at the beach putting clickies on beach chairs. It's been awesome. Robin Eklund, set to build. Hey, Johnny, how's it going? Steve Parmley and the Parmleys. How's it going? The Hornburgers, ahoy, hoy, Hornburgers. Wilfred is here. Bonsoir. Wyatt Builds, Zach Martinez, and she was here, and I think had to jump out. Zarakino, Kim. Good to see you all. The Brick Orphanage is here too. Hello.
Brunch time on Sunday.
That was brunch time fun time on Sunday fun day. All right. I'm vamping. Can you tell? I forgot where my train of thought was going, and I just started saying words that rhymed.
We've had an exciting morning because we reviewed a certain episode of a certain TV show, and we're very excited.
Yes, yeah. So we checked out the latest episode today, and I know that it's always easier for me to watch it right before because then I actually retain everything.
Yeah, I probably should have done that.
Especially given how hectic the last week was, it was probably best that we waited. So
I'm gonna do my best, guys. I haven't watched it since before all that. So
absolutely.
Okay.
And I will point out it is entirely coincidental. And if you look back in the time variant stream, you will see Blair Archer with Brick Blair before this episode was announced.
Yeah.
And also we did a Tricky Bricks build challenge of parade floats. And from what I understand,
it occurred exactly on the challenge day that we were
I heard that happened, and that is a crazy
it's like well, I guess we're submitting it's like Dawn and I were like, well, I guess we're technically submitting something.
A delayed submittal.
Oh my gosh, no way.
What?
Yeah, so there's Brick Blair, who appeared on the show, I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And with nicely articulated shoulders.
No way.
That's awesome.
That's
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
Just a coincidence. I was supposed to be on the show, but they said I had an unfair advantage.
Well, I was saying when we were watching it, I was like, oh man, I wish we could have been there for that one, because I used to make puppets and do puppet shows at the library for kids. Like that was like a thing I did for a while, and that would have been a fun challenge.
Blinky eyes and everything.
Yeah, blinky eyes and everything. So, and Brian, I understand that you and Nick built some puppets.
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah, we did. I have mine off camera. It is by far the one that I struggled with hardcore, like really, really badly this week. So,
well, and you also had much less time. I think they had 10 hours, and you had 1 hour.
Well, we had an hour and a half, but normally, like, we've been able to hold our own pretty well through and through. But this one, Nick did excellent, and I can pull up pictures in a little while.
Well, it's true. You know, we've said on a number of occasions, any team is just one, good or rough episode away from taking it or going home.
Absolutely. I would have been eliminated this week. Absolutely. 100%.
But you're already home, right?
Right. That's true. Right. I'm already just in the comfort of the
He's just
home.
eliminating himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick, they'll split the teams up. Nick will keep going. I'm like, well, I'm going back to Boston now. All right.
Well, I'm curious, Maria and Philip, what are you working on now?
Right now, we're in the middle of our journey through Lego Masters build, which I guess is unofficially on pause for the moment. We have to start in it really soon, but
it's true. When we filmed the show, and then they were like possibly fall or summer release date for the show. We're like, there's no way they're going to do a summer release.
We have plenty of time.
We have plenty of time, so we're going to build the biggest, most complex mock that we've done in a while, and we'll have plenty of time to do it. Well, guess what? Summer release happened, so we have falling behind in our build for our journey through the challenges build.
Yes.
Well,
So
I mean,
Do you want to explain what it is? The journey through challenges build.
Yeah. So the basic idea is that we're taking the different builds we did on the show, and then putting them into a medieval themed, huge mock, and there's a section for each episode. So the first episode we had the sheep and Little Bo Peep, and so we've got
an outside of the
pasture.
city, and then we did I'm trying to get through it quickly here. Cabaret girl. She was on a stage, a medieval stage, and then we did so that was really fun, right? Kind of everything kind of fit, and then we did the make and shake challenge where we put a large building with the vines, and then we finished up our most recent one.
Yes, we did the hat.
Which, how do you put a hat in a medieval build?
We did it twice, so.
That's right. So we did a little temple, based on why you would have a hat, right? It's a temple hat, right? So behind it.
So we've got 4 down and
3 to go.
3 to go.
Yep. So right now we're working on the lighthouse from the one hanging brick challenge. So
there's not much.
That's in progress, but it's very early stages.
Nice. Ooh, so are you going to suspend a piece over your piece? Is it going to hang up there?
We had not planned on it hanging.
Yeah, but it will fit the theme, and it will look wonderful. I have some ideas I haven't even run by you yet on it. So, but
that is a slippery slope because you don't want to start, blowing fans on it and knocking it over and stuff.
Right? Yeah.
No fans.
A little tiny fan somewhere would be. So you can knock it over, just knock it off the.
Yeah, it'll only need to be a small fan because it'll fail at 20 miles an hour.
No.
We always
say a quick hello to Brett, Brickham's Den, Chris Beamish, Jake Sadovich is here, Lego Door is here. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys who just hopped in. So let's talk about this. Whoop, we lost Moto. Okay, we're going to do a pause while we wait for Moto to come back before we move on.
Not that kind of pause.
Sorry about that.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, not the pause that refreshes. That's a very different pause that comes in about 30 minutes or so. This week, we've already discussed it. Puppets was the theme, and they had to put on a puppet show. So not only did they have to build something, but they actually had to perform, which was, I think, it seemed like for some people that was very nerve-wracking, the thought of having to perform. But I think that everyone did admirably in those performances.
And they set up sort of pseudo rivalries too, right? The teams had to work together.
Yeah, they had to work together, and of course they leaned hard into the whole brothers versus brothers thing.
They love that. They love the brothers versus brothers.
Well, I love it too because they're trying so hard to be enemies, but you can tell that they just really like each other. So it's just
totally.
Hey, you guys, cut it out. No, you.
So before we get started in the episode, I have a question for the full panel. We can go around and say, when you watched the episode, did you think of the puppet you would have made?
No.
That was easy. How about you, Moto?
Oh, yeah.
No way. No, I was just enjoying the show. No, usually I'm like, oh yeah, I think I know what I do for this one, or this is really cool. For this one, I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna grab the popcorn at this point.
Maria and Philip, did you come up with one?
That was kind of how I was when I was watching the show. I mean, I remember when we found out what the challenge was, and we were both like, Like thank goodness. And actually that feeling was even stronger when we watched the episode, because when I saw the guys putting together all these technical movements with like triggers and stuff, I was like, that would not have happened. The sculpting would probably have been fine, but all that movement stuff was just.
Yeah, I think if I had done a puppet, it probably would be something like a Muppet or something from like Sesame Street, because I really like the creatures. I would have like some horns or something, and like a kind of like a beard thing going on, like and then doing like a bright random color that doesn't make sense to like a human being.
I don't think we would have done like a
humanoid
person, because. There's not freedom to make it look how you want.
But this probably would have been a monster of some kind.
I bet. I think we went true to form. Flynn and I haven't talked about this, but I didn't think about the character at all. I thought all about mechanisms, right? Like, how are we going to make the mouth? Is the head going to move? How about those compound shoulders? And of course, Flynn went right to character.
Yeah, well, and I had to say, so we watched, obviously, if you watch the episode, you saw at the end that they gave a preview of what the next episode is going to be. And they showed that they are actually like splitting the teams, and the teams have to, like each individual build. And Richard said, well, mine would be very sturdy and ugly. And I said, and mine would be beautiful and fall apart. Exactly what would happen.
Well, we all have our contributions.
Right.
I think for me, it would probably be too difficult to like empty the cup of what I know about puppet making, because that's like, I work in a facility that makes puppets. So I'm well aware of kind of like how they're rigged and the skeletal part of them. And so I kind of was the same way as Richard. I instantly thought about structure and how you would build the support and the mechanisms and stuff. But what I'm not as familiar with are the type of puppets that need the mechanisms to make the mouth move and whatnot, because we're a stop motion studio, so you just do it by hand. So I don't know. Same as Moto. Like when I saw that challenge, I was just like, thank God I am not a part of any of it.
He was super stressed out during that episode.
There were two episodes.
Not me. I loved it. I really loved it.
I had heart palpitations. The first one was the hat challenge, major heart palpitations, and I don't know why in that one. But this one, I like the whole time I'm watching these guys build this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what it was, but I was stressed out. I wasn't even there.
I was chill. I was like, this
and then to have to perform, no.
Oh God.
Well, and yes, we did not obviously do the puppet performance, but I did have to walk the hat down the runway, and he could attest to the fact that when we were rehearsing the walk,
oh my God,
I wasn't just stressed out. I was like mad, like super grumpy about the whole thing. I came here to build Lego and not to wear an ugly outfit and walk down an aisle. Like,
I was going to say, not only did you walk down the aisle with a giant hat on, but you walked down the aisle like a boss wearing yellow, which is hard to pull off. And
hats off to you.
So.
So we had the fruit thing going on because it looked like a huge banana. So the but the producers were concerned. They like came up to me and they're like, "Is Maria is she gonna do this thing?" And I'm like, "I don't control her. I have zero control." I had worries myself, but she owned it.
So I had worries, but once I put the hat on my head, I was. But,
Maria, were you whispering asides in the mic like, "Oh, these cracker crumbs"?
Before they were filming, yes. Yeah, it was not my best moment.
So Brian, I'm curious to know, what did you, now we don't have to see it yet. We can look at it at the end like we do, but what was your puppet? Like, what did you make or attempt to make?
Well, on this past week with Nick?
Yeah.
Okay, so immediately when I saw the puppet challenge and they had dynamic duos kind of teaming up together, I immediately thought of like a fairy tale, and if we would have went with Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. So if we had the choice, it would have been the Big Bad Wolf as the one to go with, paired up with another team, because that has a lot of room for expression and whatnot, and that's what we ended up going with for our challenge. So yeah, I have it here, and I'll show you what ended up happening. And there's a reason why I wanted to go with the wolf. And yes, I would have been the voice and acting all of it out compared to Nick, who would be doing all the stuff for it. So yeah.
And having done puppeteering myself in the past, having incidentally built a humanoid puppet recently, I was definitely thinking about building some sort of a creature. I mean, it was so cool to see the different ways that everybody approached it. And then learning some from accidentally coming up with this design, I definitely saw the value in when people use string versus ball joint connections, and knowing about where you have to have that stiffness versus looseness, and then of course balance too. Like this one, originally I had planned for head articulation, and I still haven't quite figured it out because the head got heavy so quickly. Like it would work better as a hand puppet, but trying to control the head, I have still like rods and stuff in the back that we're supposed to manipulate it. And then I've been working on this base. Here, let me grab this base.
Well, I think it's interesting what you would say about the head being so heavy. That is something it seemed like everybody struggled with this time.
Yeah, because Lego, it gets heavy really fast. So I've been working on this base for manipulating the puppet.
Whoa!
And it's got this
I
joystick
love your track.
control. And then using the big
amazing
toothed gear to manipulate a smaller gear in the middle, so you can.
How are you engaged with that large black gear?
So it's laying in. Oh man, my lamp is like too much. It's laying basically just in between these stacks of plates, and then there are tiles, and it's engaged by these two long cross axles here that are attached to
That's a nice mechanism.
That's
and
gorgeous.
then that activates this smaller tooth gear in the middle.
Cool.
That's amazing.
You know what's funny? Actually, I didn't realize it until just the second, but here I am thinking like, oh, there's no way I could build a puppet. Wouldn't even know where to start. And then I'm looking right beside me, and I've basically built.
You don't say you built Susan.
Yeah, like that's pretty close to puppet like.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say Does that
And his
now?
mouth, and I did initially have him designed so that his, like, it's not really. Again, I wasn't gonna like animate him or motorize him or anything, but I did design him so like his head twists and his mouth opens a little bit, and it's all Technic inside. And so now I'm looking at it, realizing actually it probably wouldn't take that much to get the mouth moving, like with like a little trigger or something. But what made me really anxious when I was watching them build was Natalie and Michelle, when they started putting the arms on with like the ball sockets. That's exactly what I did with this guy. And there's so much weight on those ball sockets, and they don't hold that kind of weight, so they pop off real easily. So the whole time I'm like sitting there going, oh God, they're gonna pop off. Like I just knew it.
Hey, so I realized before we go into looking at the images and talking about the builds, I realized I was so excited about Maria and Philip being here that we skipped pins. And I know, Maria and Philip, if you don't have them, that's totally fine. But we do share pins here. So I'm going to start off with Cara, because she's always there with the pins. What have you got?
Always ready. I have this awesome Donald Duck Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh, from the show when he would at the end when he would hit the big drum. That's awesome. Very cool. Holly.
Yeah, so you guys got to see this one because it came in the mail the day you guys were leaving. So this is my Scott Lava pin. He's on Instagram as Scott Lava. He's also a really awesome illustrator. I love his art style.
I loved the stuff that you showed me. It was so amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Really cool. Very nice.
One of my new favorites.
Brian, what have you got for us today?
Continuing the series of Mario pins. Now that it's the end of summer, Mario Sunshine is like the summer game. So got Mario pin there.
Very nice. Sweet. I love Mario Sunshine. That was such a good game.
Oh yeah.
Very good. And Blair.
I'm not sure if I've exhausted all my pins, and I don't want to dig deep into the history of books to find what may have already been shown. So I'm going to share this cool Lego patch that I got.
Oh, that's awesome.
3D glasses.
3D glasses.
Yeah, it's so awesome, and I have yet to put it on anything because I'm just not sure what I want to put it on. I don't have like a cool Zach the Lego Maniac denim jacket or anything. So Somewhere. It'll go somewhere.
I bet you Ms. Slobrichta can tell you where to get a denim jacket vest for you and to put all your patches on. Okay, let's see. So Moto.
I'm gonna rock the X's and O's, the love one.
Yay!
Oh, cool.
Love Mickey. Hello,
Although-
Gary Mullane.
I don't know why the X's are for the eyes. Does that mean it's knocked out? I don't know. But
I know. Hope it's just knocked out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Marie and Philip, do you have anything? Oh, you do. Wow. See, now they are on it. That is called guests who are on it. Here we go. What do you got for us?
We try our best. Maria had to run upstairs and grab
I
them.
do have to go soon. We're not like pin collectors, but was it last Christmas? Last Christmas, after a really amazing season of Mandalorian, Phil actually went and got pins for everybody's stocking stuffers. So I've got this super adorable little baby. It's not Baby Yoda, but Grogu. I just think it's so cute.
I still call him.
He'll
Baby
always
Yoda.
be Baby
We
Yoda
always
to
call
me.
him Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
And then along with that set, there's also the mud horn that they put on the shoulder, the pad of the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So everyone in your family got one of those, and yeah, they actually sit. We have a little cork board upstairs above our.
I think
desk.
the kids are in their rooms maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome.
So
That's cool.
All right. Well, what have we got going today?
Well, I've got
Let me just make sure Clicky's on the job here. All right, there you go. He's ready.
from Dawn. I've got this 20-sided dice right here. 20-sided die.
Nice.
Thanks, Dawn.
Love it.
And
Coming up 20.
I've got the golden pirate ship from Peter Pan.
Oh,
I love that.
Love it. Is the back of that like Mickey ears?
Yeah, all the Disney pins come with
Oh my
the little
gosh.
rubber
Interesting.
stoppers
How
at Disney.
cute is that?
It's a little Mickey.
Everybody else probably knew that, but
It's fun, but it's
Right.
they don't last a super long time. If you're gonna be like getting pins around the park, it would behoove you to get the little metal backs for them. But yeah, I love this pen. Anything Peter Pan, I'm a big fan.
put it on now.
All right, so here we go. So let's take a look at this week's builds. Now, these were, gosh, there was just so much to love about all of these. I would have had an extremely difficult time choosing. But
Yeah.
here we go. All right, so this first one, this was Zach and Wayne's. And I gotta say, this I think was my favorite. It was really, really, really fun and really well done. Brian, what do you think about Zach and Wayne's build here?
I love that they had a point that they thought about beforehand when they were doing the puppet show as the lock and key selling point when they were doing it, which was the tip of the hat. You know,
Yeah.
those sort of
Yeah.
moments. Those are what the judges are going to remember, and they focused on that, and it worked because the head doesn't seem overly dense, and that hat isn't dense either. So the weight of it wasn't necessarily an issue because they were pushing the brick onto the brick and making sure that could have snapped under any other circumstances. So they did that incredibly well. That's what set this apart from all the others.
Yeah, I also noticed that it seemed like the eyes were hooked up to the mouth. So when the mouth
They were.
moved,
Mhm.
the eyes tilted back and forth. It was so clever.
That's an efficient use rather than having a whole separate mechanism there.
Right. Well, we had already seen them sort of combine mechanisms in the windmill episode where they had, a lot of things powered by other things, which I understand they pushed very hard for. So I'm glad they were able to like bring that in here as well.
Yeah, they're
Moto,
really.
what do you
really
think about this
function
one?
forward.
Sorry,
Moto.
who? Oh, me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love this thing to death. Yeah, I'm just the fabric usage, the character design, everything on this thing is it's on point.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
On
Again, Mixels.
point with that sword.
Yep. Yeah, on point.
Those are Mixel joints
Ew.
to the rescue with the fleur de lis cape, right?
Oh
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
that fabric is really fantastic. Just really, Blair. What do you think? What do you think Brick Blair thinks? Is there like a mustache and beard competition going on here?
Definitely a fan of the caricature. I was also impressed by the dual motion for the mouth and the eyes. That was pretty cool. But I just love that they really went with function over form, like function first was definitely their goal. Like it doesn't have the most complex techniques used throughout, it has, they've honed in on some things that really work well and were structurally sound, allowing them to focus on the way that it functioned. And I think that that for this challenge was really key, because knowing that you're going to have to perform and knowing that it's not going to fail you allows you to have that breadth of motion and the freedom to do what you want on stage. And like having built puppets and done puppet shows, like failure is the last thing you want, unless it's intentional, right? Like I intended on something to break early on when I did my first performance on this show because it's funny. But in this in this instance, you don't want anything to break because that's what they said not to do. So the fact that they were just like, everything's really sturdy, but it has this great character sense flowing throughout, and everything's very evenly finished. And the fact that those little patterns read as fleur-de-lis, even though it's two pieces, like it's very impressive. I think that they did a great job encompassing the whole challenge and building something that they could really manipulate, which is like the ultimate point of the challenge, right? Is something that you could perform with. And so they just nail it on that.
I
Can we
think
just,
the key
for a
to this
moment,
one. What's that?
Can we just pay homage to Abby's comment?
What's that?
I didn't see it.
Dual motion. Blair said dual motion.
Oh, dual
Got it.
motion. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. All right.
Well, I think, and maybe this is what you were talking about when you said dual motion, Blair, but I think that shoulder is one of the most sophisticated techniques in the whole episode.
Yeah,
and it really allowed them to do the jousting. I mean, it looks like it's very heavily reinforced.
Yeah, a lot of the arms were like floppity arms, and this one was a very deliberate, like back and forth motion. And that's actually, a lot of puppets are built that way, to do a specific thing. So rather than being able to do anything, they're like, okay, this is the move that this puppet does. And so we're going to build it specifically for that. I thought it was, this was just brilliant.
Yeah, and it's one of the few that used like what you'd call in an action figure, like a cut joint, right? Where it's got, it moves one way, but they have multiple one-way movements rather than, a full, like you said, floppity sort of motion.
Where having a single hinge just gives you a 1 to 4 stud, attachment, very small.
Right.
I feel like whoever wins the show at this point is basically just the master of time management, because like everyone else has kind of pointed out, it's sort of like even, right? Like it doesn't, like they definitely had a plan. It was all forethought. They knew what they were doing, and they didn't get carried away with like too many details in one area, not enough. Like it doesn't look like a really polished, like the most beautifully sculpted model, but it definitely looks complete. Like it doesn't look unfinished, and it doesn't look unevenly detailed. And it's like, they obviously put more care and attention into the mechanisms, but that's kind of perfect. Like it's like really well balanced. And that's what blows me away, is like, given the time that everybody has to do these things, like you can tell some people are getting kind of carried away with one part of the build, whether they're focusing on this or that. It's like they get so caught up in that. It's like there's always something that doesn't get finished. And I think these guys are just remarkable at time management and pacing themselves and having a plan. And they just know what they're doing. It's amazing.
Well, I noticed too that they were done early. They're just like waltzing on over to Dave and Richard's table. They're like, so we're ready to test it out, and they're like, yeah, we're not done yet.
That's very on point for them. They were always constantly ahead of the curve for sure, which is shown by like either the super technical stuff that they get done so quickly or the sheer size of the builds that they would do. Wayne and Zach are what do we call them? Zane and Whack.
Zane and Whack.
They are definitely the masters of the technical.
Love
I mean, the stuff that they come up with in such a short period of time is spectacular. And then one thing that I'd like to point out too, real quick, is the hat is a nod back to the Hat's Incredible episode, because the green hat with the leaves on top as well. So
I
I
thought
love
that.
that kind of stuff. Like that gets me right in the warms. So
Yeah.
awesome.
I thought the build was classic Zach and Wayne. I never say it right. Because it was simple but super effective.
Yep.
Like the technique was not simple, but it came out like it looked
Yeah.
very fluid and seamless. And
When you looked at it, you knew immediately what it was, and you knew immediately what it was going to do. And I think that's the kind of stuff that when you build, that you have to build for Lego Masters, they are fantastic at.
and their performance was really
Was spot
phenomenal.
on too. as
Yes.
well.
Well, and I don't want to go on too long about this one piece, but the foresight to do that yellow and white checkerboard color blocking at the core of the piece, which is such a nice balance for the in scale for the pattern on the cape. I feel like they knew what they were doing from the get-go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Let us move on to the next puppet. DJ Treats. This one, just what a great character.
Yeah.
Such great movement on this one. Like the hair, especially and it's, I think that's important too, because if you're when you're creating a puppet, you're creating something that's mimicking life, and you can't always, obviously you have a mouth that can open and close. If you're really good and you have the time, you might have eyes or eyebrows that move. So you have to find other ways to bring movement into it. And I think that the hair was just such a brilliantly perfect way of bringing it. And, Dave and Richard always bring them a little bit of themselves into their builds. I mean, we all do, but they are particularly, always have a very strong focus, very strong story. And I think this was great. And I should point out, the only build that included legs.
Yes, I noticed that too.
I mean, I don't know if we ever actually saw the legs during the performance, but it had legs. And it just makes me think of that. I remember, as a kid, going and seeing the Muppet movie, and Kermit the Frog was riding a bicycle, and that was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, are you kidding me right now? It's riding a bicycle. So yes, I always appreciate puppets with legs. I think that's really because usually you only see that in marionettes, which are the stringed puppets rather than a hand puppet. But
speaking of Kermit the Frog, this is slightly off topic, but did you guys know that the voice act, I don't remember his name now, but the voice actor who does Kermit the Frog did Will Pipette on the show.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that.
Oh.
That is right.
So he was there the whole time. And apparently he had this really complicated setup where he would sit on the floor with a monitor on his lap so he could see what was going on above him. And then he could react and, direct the face to the right. It would have been really amazing to see.
Yeah, I need at least 6 more arms to do something like that.
So, Cara, what are your thoughts on DJ Treats?
I mean, I love that they have the legs. I think the whole marionette puppet is fantastic. The movement of the head and the dreads is great. I think it's just a wonderful character. The hands are really nice. And I don't remember if it was Amy or Jamie commenting that it was too blocky.
No, I don't.
Most of them were blocky. I mean, come on. I think it's a great character. I think that the shaping is totally fine.
I think it's perfect for a puppet. It's perfect for a puppet.
It's perfect. Exactly.
Right. And it's not like they don't know how to smooth it out and not have studs, because you see that in the skin, and you've seen it in their other builds too. So I didn't agree with that critique at all. I thought that was off base.
The studs too almost look like felt, which I think I don't know if that's what they use on puppets, but that kind of vibe I got of the puppet material they use for clothing for puppets.
Yeah, it looks textured.
Yeah.
So I liked it, and I disagreed with them. Sometimes though, I feel like they're just trying to find something.
Yeah, they are.
Well, they probably made that same comment on all the
Yeah,
puppets, and that's just the one that made the edit. You know.
Well, I noticed that they said the same thing about Natalie and Michelle's.
After complimenting.
Yeah, after they show Brickmaster Amy with Natalie and Michelle's, and she says, and I think it's really great how you created the face with so few bricks, and it looks really great. And then when they were, and then later when they were talking about it, she said, then it looks blocky, and I know
Those
that
are the same thing a little bit.
Yeah, and I know that some people here are not able to say these things yet, but we can, and so I can tell you that they gave positive and negative commentary about everything so that they would have stuff to choose from when it came to the editing. And we were definitely a victim of that, the blocky thing in the first episode. But
well, in their defense, though, the core body is SpongeBob-y. It is very SpongeBob. It is a rectangular slab with some smoothing out.
Sure,
but it works.
But we were talking about the exposed studs. What I really like about this here is that they've used the studs to their advantage by creating, like I know Phil, you were saying it looked like felt, but you notice that they've used tiled smooth for the skin and textured for the clothes.
I don't think that was the comment though. I don't think they meant blocky as in like studded. I think it's just that it's square, like the.
No, I know. I was just bringing up I like that they used the two different textures purposefully. One for skin and one for. So actually, we're going to take a break on this one right now because, friends, it is time for the pause that refreshes. That's right, everybody. It is time for everybody's special favorite guest, and we know really the only reason that you tune in. It is Logan Cookie Time. Logan. He's
hanging out with Clicky somewhere.
Oh, there you go. Here we go.
Good boy.
There he is. Hi, buddy. Oh, he is very excited today, friends. There he is. Hi. Hands.
Utterly left up on the table the other day.
Oh, yes. He completely jumped onto the entire table the other day. It was terrifying.
Good boy.
All right, one more.
One more.
I want all of the cookies. Okay.
Good boy.
Yay, Logan.
Good boy.
Such restraint.
Wait a second.
Such a good boy. And we've got Skittles with a haircut, it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Skittles, I can see your eyes.
Say hi, everybody. See, now she's in sprocket mode.
Yes, I can see it now.
Speaking of puppets.
Yeah, right?
We've got very good.
Aw.
Oh, that's a great, I believe Justin Ramsden's partner designed that, if I remember correctly, Gemma. Isn't that
Ms. Gemma Anderson? You are correct.
That's right. What have you got there? Oh, is that Belleville?
Fancy.
No, this is the sassy new horse from the
What?
Magical Acrobatics.
Okay,
Oh,
I
What?
am.
Their heads move now.
What?
That's on my must purchase immediately now because
What?
it's wearing a
Oh
top
my
hat.
God.
Ah!
Oh,
Okay, that's a must have for sure.
Yep.
Oh, Marie and Philip, who's this?
This is Dutch.
he's
Oh,
very
really
old
nice.
and slightly
Aw.
creepy, but he is our little snuggle pup. This is what we call little dog. We have little dog and big dog. Little dog weighs about 12 pounds. Big dog weighs about 85. So
Oh.
Do they get along? Hopefully.
they
They get
do.
along
They
fine.
do. And
He wants to get down
his nickname though is Dutchy Underfoot because he's always like walking underfoot when you're like trying to do something in the kitchen. I swear he's got a death wish.
Oh, Blair, it looks like it's Brick Blair cookie time as well.
Nom, nom, nom.
Yum, yum.
Do we get splishy and splashy today, Moto?
Oh, I have food in the fridge, so I didn't want to open it. But yeah, they're in there.
They're chilling.
They're just chilling.
They're just chilling in the
They're
fridge.
chilling
It's
out,
all
yeah.
good. Thank you, friends. And that was Logan Cookie Time. All right. Animation by Yana River Blue. Amazing.
I did want to say
Awesome.
something about that, the blocky criticism.
Mhm.
When I look at, DJ Puppet, I see lots of texture and I think the face is heavily molded. But when you look at the most heavily molded pieces from this episode, they're super not box shaped.
Yes,
Right.
It's
So,
true. It's
so
true.
I think the bar has just really been set, has been set much higher for the kind of sculpture,
But I mean,
that
extra
we're
points
seeing.
for legs.
Well,
Yeah.
and
Right.
and they
Like
also
you.
talked about they heavily wanted movement, so those legs are freely moving.
Yeah. Well, and I like too that they did when they did their performance, they showed like the hair moving and the scratching, the record scratching. I thought was really
That was
fun.
awesome.
And the most articulated head, right?
It was they did get a lot of side to side action out of there. So, all right, let's see. All right,
Aw.
Princess Puppy Hazel. This is Brian and Lauren's build. Now, super expressive face, showing their their penchant for characters.
Yeah.
They did really. It's just so cheerful. Like you can't help but smile looking at that.
Mhm.
I think though had really the kind of least amount of movement of the models. Now I know they showed during the build phase that they had like hinged the ears so that they would move and the tongue, I think, so that it would move. And unfortunately, I don't think that movement came across in the final performance.
Well, and that's what Brian was saying, that he was so into the voice acting that he forgot to act the puppet.
Right.
Lots to remember.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean during the performance?
Yeah.
There's a lot to do going on. And
Plus,
that's the
it
hard.
was so heavy. That one, like, it had so much brick that
Yes.
you could tell it was a lot heavier than most of the other puppets.
Mhm.
And so just having that up is a lot, because if you start to tilt one way or the other too much, I mean, there's the possibility it could overwhelm you if your arm was getting, tired and head to the ground or something terrible like that.
Yeah. I did like the fetch the ball. That was cute.
Yes.
That was really fun. I thought this. It's definitely of all of the builds the most cheerful. Like I just kind of you can't help but
it's so
smile.
fun.
I mean, I was smiled at all of them, but this one is just that big face and
Now,
dogs.
It's a really great character. Like the character is so good, and the details they put on with like the collar and the ball and the crown and all that. Like she's just really adorable. Classic Lauren and Brian.
And I feel like this is something you would see on like a kid's Muppet show, right? Like easily
Yeah.
just show
Yes.
like a Sesame Street and like be that like the special guest character on the show where they're trying to teach the kids a lesson about, I don't know, can carry your dog or something.
Yeah, like almost looks like more like somebody in a costume,
Yeah, I honestly think that it was not the character itself. It just was how technical some of the other builds were that
Yeah.
got them, because it really was a really good character. Super cute.
Yeah, I'm just blown away by the character design across the board for this whole
Yes.
episode.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
normally, some teams are strong at character development and creating, iconic. Like I think of Tyler Kleitz as being someone who just knocks out characters very, very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
well, he's
But
very fluid.
but every single one of these suckers is like have an expression. They have, just assembled to perfection.
Well, and now this one was one of the only puppets, if not the only puppet, where the head moved rather than the mouth, right?
Well, I think
Yeah.
there was a mouth movement, but as you were mentioning, I think that he just kind of got lost in the. And I mean that's the thing, and I can tell you from having done puppet shows that is really difficult. Like it seems it would be easy to just sync your hand with what you're saying,
Yeah.
but it's actually not that easy, and that's why he has a monitor. The guy who did the Will puppet has a monitor down there looking at it so you can see what it does, because it's a lot harder than it seems, and there is a lot to think about, because not only, and I can tell you just from using a regular old foam and felt puppet, it still hurts to keep your hand up there all that time, especially if you're doing like a 20-minute puppet show and you're the only one back there. Like you're trying to slowly you just see, eventually you're just seeing the head because your arms
Yeah.
are
Just try
drifting down.
holding your arm up there without anything on it.
Well, also, I learned that Dave requested that they install a shelf into the box design so that they could, because of the weight of these models were so dang heavy.
Oh,
And they honored it. They went ahead and installed it. Yeah.
Very cool. Brian, what do you think about Princess Hazel?
This one has a certain level of whimsy to it compared to most of the other ones. I feel like a lot of kids would be enamored with this if it were at an actual puppet show. I like that. Was this one of the only creatures of the whole build?
Yeah, we had the dragon, and we had, and then we had this one. I think the rest of them were human characters.
I'm really surprised that there weren't many more creatures, because you could you would think you would do a lot more expression with that, and I mean they ran with it for making it a realistic creature of the whole bunch. It made it stand out compared to the rest of them.
Yeah, well, and I think this is kind of Philip, probably what you were talking about earlier. Like, you would want to make a Muppet-like character rather than a human character, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this definitely is that Muppet style. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really it is actually interesting to people, and I wonder too to what degree choosing choosing to do a humanoid character was a bit of a, like, the builders giving themselves a challenge, because it really, like, an extra challenge on top, because it's challenging to sculpt, and even more challenging to sculpt a human face that reads as human.
They said that in the show too. So I mean, I would think, why not make it a little bit easier? I'm not going to do a humanoid face. No, like we'll do a dog or a dragon or something else.
Yeah, well, like in the earliest days of computer animation, you saw dinosaurs, but you didn't see many people. You know, those curves are tough,
right? And then
CG people still often look really weird, right? Like,
yes,
you know what looks right, and you know if it doesn't look right. And they've already proven that they can sculpt animals. Like, this is sort of in line with their frog that they did. And I even kind of wonder if, like, this is something they kind of had in their back pocket. Like, maybe they already had in their head that they were going to do this. Maybe they've done a dog build before or something like this, where they were like, you know what I mean? Like, because it kind of didn't fit with the challenge for what they were doing and how they were doing it. I was a little bit puzzled as to the approach that they were taking, but they seemed like they were pretty confident that they were going to make it work. And I was like, I wonder if they just, like, you know, I don't know, like, they just kind of had this build in their pocket that they thought this was probably the best opportunity to use it.
Well, there is a certain level of leaning into sort of the tried and true things that you know that you can do. And I know, Maria, you talked about in your interview that with the press about the trees, that you kind of have that tree design in your back pocket. It's something that you know that you can do and do quickly and do well. And I'm curious, for those of you who are on the show, and also for those of you who build, for conventions and stuff like that, how often do you lean into your bag of tricks, and does it always work for you? I know we leaned into our bag of tricks, and sometimes it worked for us and sometimes it didn't work for us. How do you find that? Did you find that a positive or sometimes a negative? Maria and Philip, how about you?
Well, I think mostly it's a good thing, because knowing how to be able to replicate or do something quick and not have to puzzle it out saves you so much time on the show. It didn't serve us very well in the first episode, because we really pushed into that whole, like, mock building thing with lots of cute little details that would have looked great in a photograph but didn't look great on TV.
Oh yes.
And so it is a completely different type of building than what you do as a mock builder. So you just have to find a way to, like, bring the things in that you know how to do, but make them
amplify them.
Amplify.
Yeah. So if there is a season 3, which, cross your fingers, it will be there. If people are considering being on the show, like, make that box of, like, tools that you have, like, how important that will be. Because there was definitely areas, like Maria talked about, where we struggle, like, technical stuff. Like, we just don't do a lot of technical.
This season is still so highly technical. I think after, like, the second or third challenge, we were like, what did we get ourselves into?
The other thing we did a lot of too is that we had, like, we didn't know what the challenges were going to be going into them, but we had a list that we went down and wrote down things that we would like to do based on, like, the type of challenge that may or may not come up. So having that, so you don't spend time, like, trying to figure out what you're going to do and going right into that is super important. And then with a lot of our builds, we kind of went outside of like our normal like way of doing stuff. Like, so that's always fun, right? It's always fun to push yourself.
Well, like this is a really simple thing, but like that turtle we built in the hanging brick episode, it's all like 2x bricks, and we never build with 2x bricks.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That is not so,
Yeah.
but that seemed to be the thing to do on the show. So we were like, well, I guess
Yep.
now's the time to do it.
Gotta
So
build big.
That was, I think, the hardest thing for me on the show was learning to build that way, like in large detail rather than small detail, which is something that we're used to. And then on this sort of idea of leaning into your bag of tricks, where I think it affected at least us negatively, was that we kind of doubled down on it, and we're like, I know this works. It should work. Why isn't it working? It works every other time. Why isn't it working? And we just kind of kept on it
20th of the time.
Yeah, until you realize, like, okay, this really isn't working.
Yeah.
This thing that we know isn't working, and we're going to have to kind of shift gears.
One thing really occurs to me. You were talking about building with 2x4 bricks. Clearly, they want you to build really big, so you can't be doing it all with 1x2 plates. But there's a big balance between building with 2x4s and having it still have that roundness and curves and all that, and having it look blocky. And I found that very challenging. I'm not used to building big bricks like that, but someone like Bill Volbrecht builds enormous models, enormous models, almost all studs up. So that ability to sculpt in big bricks, I think is, you got to be kind of masterful with that.
So Brian,
oh, go ahead.
No, Brian, I'm just curious because I know you don't build a lot of mocks, like it's mostly models, but now that you've been doing this thing with Nick, have you found yourself returning to certain techniques, or especially with a limited brick pile, right? Like, do you find yourself returning to similar things over and over again?
No, I haven't been building it long enough to get a bag of tricks. Basically, I hope for the best every time I reach into the bin. I'm like, what do we got? All right, cool.
Yeah,
I
same.
got nothing yet. But
that's fair.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. Like I don't like anytime anyone's asked if I would do like Lego Masters, my kind of first response is like, I don't feel experienced enough. Like I don't have that bag of tricks really. I'm still sort of figuring out new things every time I build. So I think until I've built enough of kind of the same types of things and I like feel confident in that, I don't think I would even like consider it like a competition type thing.
Now, I think of Blair and Moto as both, in different ways, highly technical builders.
Yeah.
I feel like
That's
you
your thing, for sure.
use complex build techniques for fine detail. I mean, what do you have? You obviously have techniques you return to again and again. Blair?
I mean, that was actually my biggest concern about being on the show, was not having access to seed parts, essentially. I had, pages and pages of ideas for challenges, and backup ideas for challenges that would probably be presented, some of which have been on the show, some of which haven't. So I definitely had a plan going forward, but it's a very different style of building, like you said, and it's a style of building that I rarely do. I mean, this probably has more standard bricks from the Everyone is Awesome set than anything I've built in a long time. I mean, most of my mocks I can look at and say almost for certain, maybe there's like 2x4 bricks in there. And they were only there for like, I needed them for a structural attachment right here in the middle, and that was it. And then the rest of it is specialized pieces. I mean, that's what I love to build with. So for me, it's always just about pushing the limits of the brick and using new stuff. I'm almost always trying to pioneer something new. So I would say that I don't really have a bag of tricks so much as like a bag of holding with just chaos inside. And then I just like pulling stuff out. So if I had been on the show, I mean, there definitely would have been some interesting concepts getting used, but definitely figuring out how to build larger, faster, and using more standardized brick was the biggest challenge ahead of me. So I don't know, it's an interesting format. I mean, even just doing the lead up stuff, like I definitely did some building like I'd never done before. So,
And I will say, I don't think you need to have a bag of tricks. My bag of tricks is very, very small because I've only been building for a couple years. But there were some teams on there whose bag of tricks may have been even smaller than mine, and they've been very successful because I think there's having your bag of tricks and things you know how to do, and then there's coming in with no expectations and just being like, why not? We'll do it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's more about how you work under pressure, like coming up with the ideas, implementing them, and getting them done on time is really more important than having like a huge list of things you already know how to build.
Yeah, back to it being
concept and time management.
mastering time management, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is not the skill I have.
Yeah.
He's really good at it.
Well, until the last challenge we were on. Yeah, that was something actually we learned pretty early on. It was that we failed so hard in the first challenge. And then having worked forward, realizing that we were building for TV, we weren't building for a convention. And that's the biggest lesson that you can absolutely learn. Like, how is this going to portray on TV? So, and everybody that's on the show and that's left, that's currently there too, like, they're all experts at doing that. And they all, 6 of them, the 6 teams deserve to be there at this point because they are so fantastic at building for TV and building for those challenges.
And they all have amazing ideas every time.
Yep,
I felt like after several episodes, all of a sudden we were like, there's nothing left.
That's a good point. That also amazes me probably more than anything else is the fact that pretty much, or the way it comes across as a viewer anyway, is pretty much at the moment that they say go, everyone seems to have an idea like that. And they're running with it. And that's the part that just floors me because I've never been able to operate like that. I have to sit there and think for half an hour just at maybe an idea that's worthwhile.
Well, I mean, I will say that a lot of that is editing because I know that on our season, like, and it works greatly to their advantage, but Tyler and Amy would be in the planning stage for like an hour before they even touched a brick, and they were the quiet storm for sure. Like, and then it was just like vroom in, with this amazing thing right at the end.
This isn't much of an aesthetic take, but it occurs to me that doing challenges is a little like grant writing. Like, you've got your skills and you have your CV, and you better make it seem perfect for that grant or that challenge, right? Yeah. It's just whether it's related or not.
Or your grant will get denied.
All right, so let's return, shall we, to puppets.
I love this puppet.
So this is
this was
Natalie
great.
and Michelle's build, and of course the first thing I thought of was like Taker Waker.
Yeah,
when I saw this build, and well, there's just so much about this that is so fantastic. Cara, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. What do you think about Betty Brick?
I mean, what a character! I love this one so much. The hair was amazing.
The curlers.
The curlers. Absolutely amazing. And I love the big, wide Muppet mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I think they, I would say the body is a bit blocky here. They could have done a little more with shaping, but they made such a wonderful character that you'd really, you have to really try to find a flaw.
Yeah, well, and then that patterning on the clothes.
Oh, it's so good.
That's really well done. And dots once again save the day.
Exactly.
Did you guys see the micro or the mini scale version that Michelle made of this at home?
Yes, I did. It's so good.
Every bit as cute, maybe cuter than the one they did on the show. And you can see the pattern really up close and it looks amazing.
Well, and then and also too, like, I should to mention that, like, that takes time. Like, if you've built any of the mosaics, you'll know that, like, putting on all those little individual pieces takes time, and you don't always have time for all of that. And yet it makes such a statement here. It's just so good. And I couldn't help but notice too that, like, I loved the curlers, and then when they showed them close up and how they were mounted on, they kind of also look like toilet paper rollers, like toilet paper rolls.
They used universal joints on them.
Yeah, I mean, it totally worked great and was very, very funny. I really liked this one a lot.
Who are those British puppets that look like famous political figures. This looks like one of
those were those. But this is cute. Those were terrifying. I know the ones you're talking about, but they were. Yeah, I didn't care for those. Anyway, Holly, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, same. Just so much character to it, and I thought the rollers were brilliant because again, repetition. You know, they kind of got one technique down, and then they just put it all over. So it was a really great idea just for like large sort of filler around the head. And they really put everything into the face, which was probably a good idea because that's obviously the focus. And looks like maybe that's where they, you know, not a whole lot of attention paid to the torso and arm type things. But I mean, for the time that they had, I think they pulled it off. Like,
one I'm seeing too, like I'm looking now and seeing that she actually had a pair of glasses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you didn't really see that in the show, but she's got these like awesome cat eye glasses. Like a prop.
Yeah, it would have been good. Like I don't remember if they were hanging around the neck, but they should have been. They should have been.
Oh, on like a pearl chain.
Yeah.
That would have been
Holding
good.
them in her hand.
Style.
Yeah.
Really, just really fun. Moto, what are your thoughts on this one?
I love it. That's all I have to say. Yeah, I just, you guys have, I mean, pretty much said everything, but just Natalie and Michelle's ability to, you know, a lot of teams, we were talking about this, had inspirations for how they're going to do their characters. And they just looked, they looked at you know, what was right in front of them and said, okay, we're going to make something like that. But the touches that they come up with in their use of color is always spectacular. Like just the little deep dark pink, just that spot to get to get the makeup effect on there.
Yeah. And I really like the tongue too.
Yeah, it's all these little touches that just add up to an amazing design.
It's a very convincing puppet. It looks like a puppet.
Yeah,
it looks puppet-like, right? Like Guy Smiley.
Yeah, I mean, Natalie and Michelle, they are the queens of just winging it, and it really comes together every time with their particular style.
Well, and I think too that a lot of the others had a maybe a more sophisticated puppet presentation, where this one really leaned in hard to that, again, that Muppety kind of very, you know, like you said, big mouth. And the fact it looks like the most like a hand puppet, I think, of all of the ones here.
Somebody compared the face to, was that you? The guy from Up. The old man Up with the square.
Oh yeah.
Kind of very much like it's an old person face, right? Like it's not a young like Sylvette face that you would have of like a younger person, but it's so on point that you see it, and again, you see it and you instantly recognize it, and you're like, that's an old lady. Like, and that's your old neighbor or your grandparent.
Yeah. Two of the things that Michelle and Natalie are really good at, among many of the things they're really good at, is creating those instantly recognizable, iconic pieces that are big and bold and bright. And people look at them and go, oh, I know what that is. But they're also really good at like, they don't have preconceived notions about what pieces are or not supposed to be. And so they can pick up a half column and go, oh my gosh, this is a curler, you know?
Yes.
I just love that about them. They're so good.
Yeah, Doc Sampson is in the chat and is having feelings. I totally get it. I'm sure we're using the wrong terms, Doc.
Dude, I'm sorry if I am getting it wrong, because I know I hate it. Is it because Muppet is like a registered
copyright
brand name? Yeah, it's kind of like saying Kleenex for a tissue, right? Like it's.
I mean, I guess you could say Muppet style puppet, because a Muppet's a puppet, but a puppet's not a Muppet kind of thing. You know?
Brian knows better, apparently.
It's very Avenue Q.
Yes,
there you go. I love that musical. It's so funny.
So good.
And this was a good example too of one that you could compare with the dog and say there was a right way and a wrong way to do the head and the mouth. And I think it's what Richard was touching on, which is that they tried to make the head move separately from the mouth of the dog rather than moving the mouth separately from the head of the dog.
Yeah.
And that's where you're just manipulating so much weight. And so you come off with the same amount of like volume here, and and yet, it works better. You're able to move it more in line with the motion that you're trying to get out of it. Whereas trying to move so much weight, like if throwing the head back is such a more difficult physical thing to do. And it really worked well here.
Yep.
And this sucker was heavy,
Oh,
I'm sure.
Yeah, it weighs a
My
lot.
arm is tired just looking at it.
Yep.
Well, and if I remember correctly, and we'll get to judging in a little bit, this is the one piece that we saw judged.
Yes, which was weird. Like they did, when they showed when they did the judging where they kind of broke everything down. This was the only one they talked about. They did not do that on any of the others. I mean, obviously for time,
but I kind of talked about how much they love the character.
Yeah, but I kind of felt like that was weird. It was either show several or none, like not just one. And that's and we'll talk about this later. But if you've been watching this show or any reality show for any period of time, you can there are a lot of editing tells about like who's gonna stay and who's gonna go.
Yeah,
a lot of editing tells.
Like this one got the biggest compliment sandwich, and it had a lot to do with the arm falling off.
Right.
And I think that the editing was really keen on that. Unfortunately, they also spoiled it by having that be mentioned in the opening. So even when I'm not trying to look so that I don't see all the builds, I still heard them say they sung their arm off, and it's like, oh, come on, like, spoiler alert. So
yeah,
Well,
I've
because-
heard that you're supposed to skip like the first 3 minutes of the show so you don't get spoiled.
Right.
And all of Twitter.
And all of Twitter.
And all Twitter.
Especially 5 minutes after, or actually like 1 minute before the episode is over on the East Coast, Fox is already tweeting who won and who went home.
Yep.
It's so frustrating.
Just don't be on Twitter. It's easy.
Yeah, that's probably
anybody
the
can
best.
still show.
I don't
it
use
except
Twitter
for
whatsoever.
That's
No way.
fast.
Yeah.
It is a never mind. All right, moving on. we don't need to go there. We don't need to digress into that hellhole. All right, so here we go. Next up, we have Mark and Steven's build, the burnt out dragon. Now I gotta say, I think it was Bernie, the burnt out dragon.
Yeah, Bernie, the burnt out dragon.
I didn't know they had it in them as far as the performance goes.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Was my 100% favorite voice and like character acting. Like it was so spot on. Like it was just really, really great.
When they showed Steven practicing with the puppet talking to Will, I was like, who is this guy?
I know. If we had fun.
It was so good.
Oh
Well,
my
I think,
gosh.
and it would have really been easy to fall down the Eeyore hole here, and they took it in a very different direction, which I thought was very clever and really fun.
Well, I will say that Steven he's a huge fan of puppets. See, I said it right that time. And he was so very excited about this show we heard recently, and him just coming up with the voice and doing the character and being so expressive, I think it's probably a very exciting achievement for him. So mad props for his abilities, and I loved this character. I love the voice, I love the sculpting, I love everything they did, and I'm going to be quiet now.
Fanboy.
Yeah, well, I think of all of the builds, this is definitely the most intricately sculpted, like with the most
I mean, just
and surfaces,
especially if you look around the belly part.
Yep.
The way that the paneling is compound plate angles somehow meshing together using curved slopes.
Yep.
Yeah.
To make it seamless. That's some next level work going on there.
Even
And not falling apart.
And not
Exactly. I'm
molding.
just like holy wow.
You saw lots of
So you
arms.
can say Merd.
No, I
You
didn't.
saw lots of arms which were very cylindrical, like done, you could see how they were done with bricks and plates and snot pieces. But these are even like sort of Popeye arms, right? Like they get wider at the wrist. I think there's just molding and curves everywhere you look.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that that they didn't get their wings. Like I know they wanted the wings to move, but honestly, I think it would have gotten lost in the editing and probably in the performance unless they really like made a point of showing it. And I mean, I really think it didn't need it. And the curves on those shoulders, really great. And I mean, I know we've seen a lot of domes and stuff in Lego, but those and the way the arms attach and the fact that they didn't just pop right off, I think is fantastic.
It looks physically impossible.
Yes. Brian, what do you think about the Bernie the Burnt Out Dragon?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what everyone said already, and I was gonna ask because I forgot about the wings. So they didn't move at all; they were just there.
Yes.
Yeah,
they were meant to move, but there wasn't enough room in the cavern,
right,
for the mechanism for everything.
Yeah, in that way, I would have liked. I mean, I can say all I want. I would have liked to have seen, or you could have done this. But if there was some sort of free-ranging motion to the wings, so even if it wasn't controlled, if they just flapped as if you're moving the puppet, that would have added more motion to it. And toward the end of where they were wrapping up, they didn't have anything on the top, and I'm like, oh well, it's a dragon. Typically, you have like a fin or something up here, right? So maybe instead of having the wings, if they're not going to move or whatever, you're saying, hey, they don't really need it. Maybe something could have been added to the top a little bit more to give it a little bit more pizzazz. Obviously, it didn't need it, but that's just my critique looking at it, other than echoing what everyone said before. But yeah.
Well, I really, I mean, not only is it, I don't know, not only is it's sculpted nicely, but those eyebrows.
The eyes and eyebrows sell the exhaustion.
Yes, but
I mean, all they had to do is evidently they said all they had to do is look around the room at all the cast members, and that's pretty much how they.
Well, they also
hurts me,
performed.
Deep down, I can still feel it.
You notice they saved that. Like as a lighting designer, I like to not show all of my effects in the first scene of the first act, save some stuff. And they saved those eyebrows for like this really pointed moment of characterization that I thought was really effective.
Well, and I think that that kind of goes back to something we were talking about before that's difficult on shows like this. Whoops. Sorry. Move forward there. Is difficult on shows like this is that you get all these ideas, and when they come around and ask you what you're working on and what your ideas are, it's really easy to want to go, and then it's going to do this, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do this. And then if it doesn't come across or doesn't happen, then you've built everybody up to something. I mean, I think about Tim and Zach's explosion sign that they wanted to flop over. They made such a point of talking about it. And again, I know a lot of this is editing, but then when it didn't happen, it was, that much of a disappointment. And we've talked about this too, about how similar that is to theater, because when you're performing, if you skip a line or say the wrong thing, the audience doesn't know because they don't have a script in front of them. So you could say anything, and they would probably
unless you say,
and just go, oh, yeah.
Or unless it's a well-known performance like Rocky Horror or something, and they miss the line.
Right. So I'm curious, when the judges are going around the room, like how much are you able to keep under wraps? Like how much are you able to not disclose that you're trying to do?
Well, I mean, you can simply
they'll
just
ask you about it.
They'll ask you, but you can also, if you have little thing and here's some advice if you're going on the show, is like save something back. Like Richard was just saying, like save something that is just like, okay, I'm going to work on this quietly. If it doesn't work out, it's fine. I mean, obviously, don't let it be the main thing.
Like it should be a bonus.
Yeah, but like so those eyebrows were the perfect example. They were the bonus. Like I had no idea that was going to happen, and then they showed the way that they flipped up, and that's even like in regular puppeting. That's a pretty complicated mechanism.
I saw
to
them
pull
when they
off.
were playing with the mechanic though, and they had the little trigger thing. I thought I saw that connection.
Yeah, they just
okay.
They didn't make a big point of it. Is what I'm saying. So.
I was laughing because that moment when you've said something's going to work and it doesn't, that's the moment when, and if it was in this screen right now, they would do a close up of each character going like,
I know.
Looking across significantly.
Oh, really? Is that how it's going to go? But
did they, Maria and Philip or Moto, did they ever ask you like, okay, look over at that table, like something just happened?
Well,
I don't think they did. At least me, anyway.
No,
they
not for
didn't
me.
never do that specifically, but they would be like, well, at first it was, hey, can you walk over to that table and talk about their build? And we're like, are you serious? And then, and then they changed. Of course, I wasn't looking at a watch because
There was
we're
no
watches.
watch, yeah.
But then they would be like, from your table, hey, can you talk about builds? Pick which ones you want to talk about them. So we would do that. But there's
a good point though, because you do spend so much time heads down, like
you don't notice
on your own stuff that you don't notice. So then like they do capture those moments when you do look up, and you can hear some stuff in the room. It's pretty loud in there, so you don't see what's going on. But like, especially when the judges and Will are going around the room, you can kind of pick up on a little bit of that. And it's nice to take a little bit of a mental break and like watch, right? So, but no, they didn't specifically ask us.
we definitely. Sorry, I have a shark. We did. They did. Excuse me. Ask us to do that a few times, and I was like, I don't have anything to say. Like, I'm busy building. Like, I don't want to. And also too, like you just. I don't want to be. I'm not there to critique the builds, right? Like, I'm there to build something and kind of do that thing. And yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I do remember in the Tower Challenge, they were like, look across from you, there are 2 cakes being built. What do you think about that?
Oh,
now
yeah.
I'm hungry. Thank you. I would like some cake, please.
But that didn't make the cut. I don't think any of the conversation about the cakes.
No, there's so much stuff that haven't made the cut. So, Moto, did they like for you? Did you have to like look up thing? Like, I would look up just to watch to see if you were running, so I wouldn't run into you. But
I was too busy running.
You guys, I'm sure this has already been said, but you
Everything
have
I needed
understand
to
that
see.
Moto's running is real.
yes, it's not staged. He
No.
does it everywhere. He's like
No.
a 5-year-old.
When you're put at those final tables back there, there's no other option.
Yeah, I had to
You
do
would
the
actually tell him
limbo.
to slow down because he was too fast for the camera.
I basically
That
had
is
to do
true.
the limbo.
That is true. They had me. Yeah, they did pull a camera crew, and the first time I took off, the guy's like, "You got to cut it in half."
I think they even showed there was like this crazy moment I had with Crystal in one of the first couple of episodes, and I think it made the cut. I'm not sure, but we were both running full tilt and almost completely collided, but then ended up kind of doing this crazy dance like around each other, like this do-si-do, and which was very fortunate. But yeah, that was that because
I nearly took Natalie out only one time.
Well,
I think
Moto,
it
you
was-
can't clothesline people. You can't just run with your arms straight out.
No, I wasn't. I was just going to the pit, and she came out of the table. So what I did is there's lighting on 45-degree slants built into the side. I literally did a Neo, and I went up the side of the wall. And I think there wasn't a camera on me or anything like that, but that was
That's
nuts.
too bad.
Well, now we got to get Brian on the show because I want to see Brian running for the brick pit. I want to see this.
Oh my goodness!
No, I'd have Nick do all the running. I'm not running.
There you go.
Brian strikes me as more of an elbows guy.
Oh yeah, no, someone's getting tackled. Someone's getting shot right to the side. No. I'm not afraid to draw blood on national TV. That's fine.
Yeah. I'm elbows. I'm team elbows all the way.
Okay, so
I'm
Brian
too
would
large.
be on
Yeah,
the
we
running
got
man.
distracted there, but yeah, I mean, just I don't know what to say. Just every time I look at that, I look at Bernie, I notice something else that's just more incredible. Like the ears are a compound angle offset on the top of the head.
Moto. Thanks for playing those.
I mean, it's just like how is that on there?
Yeah.
It's so
I'm
technically
with
good.
Philip. I'm a Bernie bro for sure. That dragon's
We're gonna start a hashtag.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, look at the ears. I mean, just look at the angle
Yep.
offset. It's like, how is that? How did they get that on there?
Yeah,
And it
I
never
wanna see
fell
the
apart.
attack.
I know, and they look great. Like there's like the outer, like kind of like the little like molding on the ear, and then there's like the flat behind it.
I mean, the
It's
ears
really
could
cool.
just be popped in. I mean, those could be just
Don't ruin
Well, I think it's a
your-
mixel. I think it's a mixel attachment, but
Mixel
still,
paint,
it's just
yeah.
like, it's just cool.
Yeah.
Now, there was a moment of tension here that I think was not manufactured tension, and it was all good natured. But this piece had the same theme as the builders of the next piece, and they negotiated about it live on air.
That's
And
right.
I think they were both
Yeah.
pretty into their original ideas.
So Caleb and Jacob and the sassy princess.
She used to be a dragon.
This is
Be a dragon.
Yeah, she was going to be originally going to be a dragon, and then turn into a princess. I did notice that there was that. I was wondering who was going to win out on that one, but of course I'd already seen the preview, so I knew who had the dragon. But and also once again, thank you, Fox, for sending pictures of everyone's build except for this one.
Yeah.
So I had to pull this one. But
It's a good one with them.
Can I
operating
mention
it.
one thing
yes.
that just tickled me to death? So if you look at all the other builds, they all have the proper digits. These guys build Lego hands.
Yes, they
Large
are like
scale.
minifigure hands.
They're literally minifigure hands for their puppet. They got the lobster claw clips for the character. It's just like they always have something that just cracks me up with their models, and that was one of them where it's just like the hands are minifigures.
Well, the funny
fake
thing
hands.
is, I saw this in the previews, but not so much in the episode. It was that those eyes moved.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Yep.
rolled. Oh, it was
Yes.
fun.
They actually rolled around, which I thought was great, and I was a little disappointed that they didn't kind of
They
point
did.
that out more.
They showed quite a few clips of those eyes
Yeah, they
rolling
did.
around. Yeah.
They did.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It was in their script.
It's
They're like in my eyes roll.
I don't know. I just watched it, so and I was clearly not paying close enough attention. So
You
I'll
were
just
taken
shut up
with-
now.
Because you were taken with the hair.
Yeah, it was the hair. That well, and of course, once again, dots with all that nice detailing in there.
Aw.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So, Cara, what do you think about Princess Sassy?
Well, I mean, I think the head is so boxy. I think they could have. I don't know. Just to me, it wasn't as effective. But thankfully, they had their face. There's so much going on in that face and the movement
Right.
that you kind of don't even notice the boxiness unless you step back.
Yeah,
I like the
what a-
shaping of the torso, and I hadn't noticed the hands before, so that's pretty cool.
Well, interestingly, when we saw Richard and Dave working on theirs, they actually went with a very traditional rod puppet movement, which is where the controller is actually in the body rather than like, forgive me, Doc, Muppet style puppet where you hand puppet where you put your hand all the way up inside. And it seems that some of the boxiness of this head is so that there was room for them to put their hand in directly behind it rather than from underneath. And I think that's that may have added to that sort of boxy feeling.
That was actually something I was really curious about when the challenge was going on. Were there going to be just allowing one puppeteer? Was it going to be both people? I don't know if Moto, in your special, I didn't get to watch it yet. Did y'all talk about all the like litany
Yeah, we
of
did.
rules?
Yeah, we
But
did.
also,
So there were very few. The only rule was you had to have one specific motion. That was it. They were not given a scale. They're not given prompts on anything. No accessory prompts. And the one thing they were told is they could either do a marionette style or the physical hand-on rod style. And no one went for marionette because I was like, yeah, dude. I mean,
Oh no.
you would have to be out of your dang mind to go for a marionette. But
That would be too
Yeah.
hard.
Well, and also, how would you get the strings long enough without having to like attach a bunch of strings
Well-
together that would probably break?
But they did have like non-Lego rubber bands available for
Yes,
the
I'm
movements.
glad that you brought that up.
So I bet they also had some sort of string system to use for the marionette style.
I don't know, but every team declined and went, nope. This is bad enough.
We did it so many-
No, that was a good call on their part.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to train for years to be able to do proper marionetting. I mean, it's not easy at all. There's a lot involved there. And also, too, I mean, that's that's a whole nother level of complication to add on to a build.
exactly.
Like, so not only are you building the physical puppet, but then you have to like have all that weight hanging off those strings. Like, I just can't even imagine.
That would
Yeah.
be too
Yeah.
hard.
Blair,
Imagine,
but Blair,
and
there
I
really
imagine
wasn't
devastation.
there really wasn't that many rules with this one. This one was pretty much a wide open creative challenge.
Yeah.
That's why the scales were all different.
Mhm.
The weights were all different. You know, the
Yeah.
proportions of them
Although,
were different. from the
Thinking about the marionette, there's two things that come to mind. One is if you did choose to do a marionette, the one that's the easiest to manipulate is those birds, right? The 4-string bird marionette puppets that you can get at like fairs and stuff, where the one is the head,
Where they
the two are the flopping legs, and then the other is the body. That
Right.
would be a really cool one to do. But the other thing was that this is the puppet that I thought had one of the smartest techniques for the shoulders, which was multiple reinforced strings, giving them freedom of movement and not having to worry about stressing that shoulder joint. It looks like they have other joints in between elsewhere, but just having that one
Wow.
allowing them to just go wherever they wanted to go and not have to worry about things coming apart was really important for giving them real freedom of movement.
Blair, they didn't really show close up many mechanisms. Can you tell me what you
could
which was
see
like a
at
bell,
least-
right?
Yeah, there were at least 2, if not 2 sets of 2 strings. You can like see the line right there underneath where the pink and the white come together.
They like trap locked the stud string elements, huh?
Yep,
Got
and
it.
there were
So that the
lots
stud
of it.
couldn't come
There was
off.
enough of it in there to be really strong. So it just gave them the ability to do, you know, not 360 degree, but, you know, like infinite degree of movement, like in any direction. So it was just really a very smart technique for creating a rod puppet that allowed them to have that sort of, you know, go anywhere ability, which was really cool.
Hmm.
All right, so let's we have now reached the time of the show where we are going to talk about who won and who went home. So if you haven't figured it out by now, you may want to mute your microphone, or I'm not going to tell you to leave.
Mute
but
your microphone.
mute your headphones. I'm not
I don't
used
want
to
to hear
being
the whales.
I'm not used to being on the other end of this, so muting your microphones like what I know. Besides, we are professionals at having the microphone muted at inopportune times. Just saying.
You know, no one has heard a word you've said in this entire episode.
Well, that's probably better for them. Just saying.
Would you actually, before we go into who won and who went home, you had a picture up here that showed all of the puppets, and it gave me a chance to see what their scales look like together, because I thought the dragon was the smallest. I thought the dragon was much smaller than the others, but they're all, you know.
Well, I mean, but it like when you're talking about like head size, we're talking like the princess, the grandma, and the dog all have like the largest, biggest heads, and then we have like the 2 human characters, the DJ and the fencer, that have a similar scale. But as far as like all of them, that dragon head really is the smallest of the bunch.
I think they put their effort into details.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And also, can we talk about that stage?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
Yeah, that's insane.
Huge.
It's rad.
I think I read online somewhere that this was the biggest prop up to this point.
Yeah.
Well, there was an interview with Nathan Sawaya, and
Yes.
that they showed, and he said that it was the biggest set he built for Lego Masters yet.
That's
This one nearly broke poor Nathan.
I would not surprised.
I'm sure he has a team, but still.
But did you guys see in the promo for next week?
Nope.
It's in the promo.
Yeah, you can talk about it. That's all right.
I haven't seen it.
I know. I just want to make sure that it was. Anyway, continue.
I'm just saying, did you see what's on the set for the promo for next week? Even better than that.
Yeah.
Than that Lego.
You know what's on the set for next week? Sheer terror. Flynn and I would have been
Also in our hearts.
terrified.
Yeah.
I have so much terror.
All right, so let's talk about the winning build first. I mean, we've talked a lot about all the builds, but we're gonna highlight the winning build, and that is Bernie, the Burnt Out Dragon, by Mark and Steven. Took home the retained the gold brick and took home the top prize for this one, and really, I think, really well deserved. Although it was for me a very, very hard call between Zach and Wayne's and this one. Extremely difficult call. But I think overall, especially when you bring in the performance aspect of it, I mean, that's the thing about a lot of these, right? Like there's always a second element of it that has to be considered, and when you have to look at like how did the person or the team embrace the theme as a whole. So it wasn't just about building a puppet. You also had to put in a good performance, and they really covered both, I think, on their end.
Totally.
Now we're going to talk about.
Quick question: does anyone in the panel have another piece they thought should have been in the top 2? I felt like they really nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, same as what Flynn said. I think it was between theirs and Zach and Wayne's were clear.
For sure.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about who went home. Sadly, we have to say goodbye to someone, and I still find myself getting very emotional every single week that I watch it. You know it's going to happen. But having been there, it's, we can tell you that it is extremely emotional. And just watching it, I know what it was like when that happened, and it was intense. But, excuse me, we had to say goodbye to Brian and Lauren and Princess Puppy Hazel. Now, I think it speaks to a sense of self-awareness, I think. That I know Maria and Philip, again, like in this interview that you did, one of the first questions in the interview was, did you know, were you surprised that you were going, that you went home? And I thought your answer was so beautiful and perfect because, like, even though I stand by our work and we all stand by our work, like when we went home, I knew that was going to happen. Like I knew we struggled, like we had moments, and especially when you get down to the, like these few teams left, it's just a little bit of struggle can take you out. And I think that they, especially when you saw them all together, it was the one with the least amount of articulation. It was the one that we didn't see the mouth move. And it didn't have those couple of little extra things that just sort of like pushed it over the top. And I feel like, especially when we saw their reactions at the end, that they kind of saw it coming and handled it, I think, really gracefully. I mean,
yeah, I asked them about that yesterday, and they thought they were very safe until they started to hear the criticisms, and that's when they knew they were done for. So it was a bit of both. Like it was a surprise for them, but once they started to hear the feedback, they kind of understood where it was going.
Yeah,
but they were fine going home on this one because they loved this model and they thought it was absolutely beautiful, and they were like, this is a good way to lose, basically.
I that resonates with me a lot. I thought in season 1 that we were going home on the bridge. And I was really upset, and I felt like, well, we definitely deserve to go home. And when it came to the next episode, I felt really good about it, but I also felt like, I see this, I understand, and I love our piece, and I would hope, that children would love our piece. But I was much more resigned. I was kind of relieved a little bit. I mean, like I wanted to go to finals, but I was like, oh.
The feelings are real.
Yes. Very mutual. Very mutual.
I totally understand.
Well, that's interesting, right? Because you feel like, I think everybody thinks that like, yeah, you're there to win it and you're going to go into 100% all the time. And once you've been in that grind for that period of time, there is a sense of relief. There is like, oh, I could have kept going, but now I don't have this like stress and this schedule, and it's a lot of mixed emotions.
Well, I mean, there were days where we were going, we slept like 4 hours, so like it was mentally exhausting, and we wanted to stay, of course, and we would have happily stayed if we had, but when we did leave, we were like, it's our time and this is good. Like there wasn't any controversy about whether or not our set was the worst because it was. So like we just knew it was time and it was fine. And watching this last episode just felt so different than watching the previous 7. And for me, not for him, but for me, it was really like relaxing. I was like, I'm not worried. What are they going to do? What are they not going to show? What are they going to say? Whatever. I just enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
You're gonna go.
Well, there is that point. It's kind of like a movie trope for every week. One team's going to decide that they're going to defend the bridge so the rest of the party can continue on to the next stage. They're just going to full on Gandalf that thing, and they're just straight up, Leroy Jenkins into the pit of doom for the rest, so that the rest can continue.
I think you're at peace with it, and being that you have made such good friends with everybody else from the season, and there's such fantastic builders left, and there's no real anger ever about this. Like there's not anger in yourself, there's not anger at the other teams, there's not anger at the judges. You just you're okay with it.
It's hard to be mad when you see how incredibly talented the other teams are. Like you can't be mad about that. You're like, yeah, they're really good.
Absolutely. And by the way, man, my favorite episode to date of season 2.
We said the same thing.
Yeah.
The fact that Will had some real competition for his job as far as punchlines, and a true guest appearance where someone's physically there during a COVID production just made it so special. And then everything about it, putting up the paired teams together so they had 3 pairs rather than 2 pairs just felt right. I mean, everything about this, the challenge, the way it went down, the production, and the builds and the performances. I mean, everything was amazing in this one.
It was good, and I'm glad that they have now chosen to step back from the destruction aspect, which was so prevalent in the first many episodes. It was just, it was getting, as a viewer, I got to say, a little frustrating. I was like, really? Is this going to be every single one? We're going to have to, is it going to fall apart? I can't, first of all, it was too repetitive. Second of all, I couldn't take the stress. Just knowing about that, because we only really had the one real episode about mega structure that didn't turn out so great for us. And so that anxiety of, is it going to fall apart was, and I know they were doing it to try to make it exciting, but to me, it was just stressful. So, I
have a little bit of a controversial take here, and I'm interested to hear what you all think about it. And when I see all of the destruction and I see all of the wacky shenanigans on the show, I get this idea that maybe on some level, one tier of the producers is like, well, Lego's maybe sometimes not exciting enough on its own. So we have to add all this other stuff to it. And when I look at this challenge, without making a big deal about it, it was a highly technical challenge, but it was also aesthetic, and it was also narrative. I mean, what do you all think about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Well, I was just going to say, it's been the overwhelming feedback that it was too many of those kinds of challenges in a row. And so many of them were pulled directly from the Australian season. So any of us who were practicing and researching knew that the possibility of these things were coming. But Australia really balanced it, and they would have something that was aesthetic, but also original, and pushing it, like the building in a picture frame or building upside down, these really exciting challenges that allowed builders to really show their skill while still being challenged. But then the next one would be something where there was a physical force that you had to be put up against. And I think that going physical force, it was just too forced, it was too much. Right. And not giving that balance of aesthetics versus engineering over the course of time. This was such a fresh episode, not only because it was a totally new challenge, but just because we needed that breath away from the destruction, and that was, I don't know, it was too long. It was too long before we got to see the builders be allowed to approach something in this way. So it was
I
really
totally
And this-
agree.
That's one of the reasons I loved episode 5 so much, is because it was strictly creative, artistic, sculpting, all that. There wasn't, the only gimmick was that I had to hang, right? Like it didn't have to be blown over or shaken or anything like that.
Do you
But
feel like they were expecting something to fall though? Because I
Oh, I'm
felt like
sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know though. I never really got that vibe, but like you know, they kind of, it's always part of the challenge, right? Like, you know, it's like a puppet, like the arm falling off or something like that. But I think a lot of it too is we have this like culture that loves blockbuster movies, right? And so I think there's like this expectation that you're gonna have a blockbuster every show where you're blowing something up or
so
knocking
many
it down.
puns in there.
So blockbuster blowing down.
Layers upon layers.
Hats off to me for my puns. So I'm just gonna stop.
Well,
that.
but I agree with what you're saying, and if you, I know that like comment sections are the Cesspool Society, but if you read what people are saying about the show, it is interesting to see. Like you've got a lot of people, and I think they're largely people who don't build with Lego, or like younger people. They're like, oh, I love it. It's such an exciting season. It's so much fun. But then the people who like care about Lego as a hobby, it's totally different for them. I think they're just trying to pull in these Lego people to watch the show, which I get. But
don't get me
Well,
wrong.
that's what drives this whole thing. If not enough people watch, there won't be another season. So you know that's that's the nature of the game.
We're not
made for
the target demographic.
No,
we're not.
And then when you watch like if you ever catch the show like before Lego Masters and the show after Lego Masters, you realize like this is not for us. This is not, or it's not made for we're not the target audience.
So Brian, what did you think about this episode, like sort of in the overall running of the rest of the episodes?
I enjoyed seeing something totally different compared to season 1. Being able to create characters in large scale is something I enjoy seeing. And yes, it wasn't a destructive episode. There was still room for it that maybe the producers are like, this arm falling off. What about the other arm? Like,
they leaned into that arm.
Yes, they did make a big deal of it.
What about the head? You know, you lean this way, you know. But I like seeing something different, and I wish that there was that level of consideration for the other challenges rather than it just being, you know, like I think back to, okay, we're going to have glitter and goo. Like, okay, well, that doesn't necessarily challenge the way of the build in the same way that like this did, you know, and obviously that was earlier in the show. They're ramping it up, but like it felt a little bit not as specific in the very beginning, and now we're getting to like, okay, this is a really interesting dynamic.
Right. Now, speaking of puppets in this episode, Brian, are you ready to reveal your
let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So we went with a challenge. Normally we have the chat vote on like a theme and whatnot, but immediately out the gate, we decided to do like a fairy tale sort of a theme. And so me and Nick ended up doing the Little Red Riding Hood theme that we kind of talked about before. And immediately I said, Nick, you're doing the wolf because I trust you to do the wolf. And so I'll show you that Nick did the wolf. I'm sharing my screen right now if you want to toss that on here.
Yep.
So this is his wolf that he made.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's great.
So good.
Yeah.
Jeez, Nick.
So the ears.
The ears.
This is why I wanted him to do it, because the ears just move independently without doing anything. The arms are controlled by 2 marionette sticks. The head is on a hinge, and we're working with limited pieces too. There's only one of those hinges in the entire assortment of what we got.
Wow.
And there's even a little base with a forest as well. So he did an excellent job with this wolf.
Well, if Nick is not on Lego Masters Canada, I will riot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Nick and Simon.
Simon Lou, yeah.
So this, me and him doing this went from like, oh, what if we run Lego Masters? It'd be cool. It's basically turned into a big audition for Nick in Canada. Because if you look at what he did, and then you look what I did for Little Red Riding Hood here, if you want to share my screen real quick.
Yeah.
This does not compare to the wolf.
So
It's
cute.
No, it's awful. It's
got
awful.
like it's got this like perfect South Park vibe to it. I
Yes,
guess.
it does.
South Park vibe.
That was not the
Oh, man.
intent. So through us building, Nick was like, you should do like the eyes, like there should be some movement in the eyes, so they're like attached in a weird way. And so when I move the puppet back and forth, I got it like right here. So when you move it, it's supposed to like the eyes are supposed to pop out.
Cool.
Oh wait, hang on. I gotta get you on the big screen. Here we go.
Yeah. So the eye, this is
Oh
all
my God,
broken.
they're
The
like
eyes are
googly
supposed to
eyes.
move
Oh, I
like
love
this.
it.
She's
Right?
terrified.
Right, exactly. But
Oh
it
my
was a
gosh, they killed
situation-
Red Riding Hood.
So it was a situation that if Nick were with me, he would have showed me like, all right, this is how you could have done this a little bit better, and then I would have worked with it. But because it was over, Discord, it just did not. Yeah, I struggled really hard with this one. So
Brian, don't you dare ever take that apart.
Yes.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's I might just throw all the pieces in the trash and give myself a challenge for next week. The way
No.
I
Oh,
That is a
No.
keepsake.
Dude.
That's a keepsake.
Oh my goodness.
I
all
want
right.
it. If you are like compelled to get rid of it, I will take it.
we can discuss. We may discuss.
So
I think
we
you
got
should put a string around and hang it from your Christmas tree.
Well, yeah, I'm not that proud of it. We'll yeah.
On top of the Christmas tree.
I'm not that proud of it.
I love it.
For the top.
I love it. Well, we have gone way over time, and I apologize. I told Maria and Philip it would be 11:30, and it's now noon.
Sorry.
So apologies to you. Everybody else is kind of used to us like going over. So
Your
thank you
stomach is
for
growling.
thank you for sticking around. What was that?
My stomach is growling this whole time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine too. Fair. But before we go, has everybody got a minifig for today?
Yep.
We like to say sign off. You notice that I we like to sign off with minifigs. You notice that I've turned my forgetting that we are going to do this every time to a feature.
Yeah.
As we always sign off with our favorite minifigs. Maria and Philip, what have you got? A couple of favorite minifigs for us, or a favorite minifig? Oh,
nice.
yes.
I love this Dumbledore. He is
Yes.
amazing.
And the fox. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the fox is amazing. Such a good piece. Is that one for both of you, or do Philip?
No,
Do you
I
have a
got one
separate
too.
one? Oh,
Night
So
Flex.
the Golden Knight, this is special to me because he goes in the majority of my castle builds. Plus, this was the first set that I bought coming out of my Dark Ages. Came with this guy. I got it on clearance because we had no money back then, and I was so excited to have a castle set again.
That was before Maria let him buy Lego.
They were
that's awesome.
Our budget is much better now.
Moto.
You guys are going to know who this is.
I
Yay.
good one.
It's Bob. It's Bob.
Nice.
Last week.
Oh, and you know what? I gotta say, I was
Gotta collect them all.
Whoops. Oh, hi.
Hi, it's
Hi
us.
there. Whoa. Hello.
I was
Whoa, what?
laughing when I saw Philip, when I saw the close up of your sig fig from the show. You have Shaggy's face. I was I recognized that scruffy beard. That was awesome.
Yeah,
there is a very limited amount of this type of facial hair. On
Yeah, there is.
There is this guy, but the tone of the skin is not
It's-
quite right. It's a little.
it is the head of Kanan Jarrus. It's
Yeah.
a very hard.
Very good. All right, Holly.
All right. So this is kind of a minifig. This is one that minifig.
Well, you had a Jake Studs thing going on there.
Oh,
Oh,
So Kara made this for me for my.
No, actually, I
birthday.
didn't make it, but our Balug's president's fiance does these resin things, and I asked her to do that for me because I have one that's giant. So she uses the Lego like cupcake and cake molds, and
Yes.
so I have like this giant one in trans blue glitter that I love a lot.
That's pretty cool, Holly.
Very cool.
All right, Brian.
I just recently finished building the Daily Bugle, so I'll go with Mysterio with the iridescent
Nice.
helmet.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
that
one.
helmet. I'm
Nice.
hoping we see more of those, like that color, because I know that's also in the police station, right, with the clear version or
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely using that in like this new opalescent thing. I'm just
Yeah.
absolutely in love with.
I'm
We've
stoked,
got
too.
some dots pieces. With
They're
that.
opalescent,
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Blair.
So I tried to gather up as many different puppets as I could
Aw.
from the chat today.
Oh, look at that.
Well played, sir.
But
So good. I love it.
And Muppets.
I was also looking into my bag of costumed figs because that's where all the amazing stuff is. And I just remembered just how much I love the purple
Aw.
crayon.
Oh.
Because
Yes.
Harold the Purple Crayon.
that face too, just so elated. I was just so excited to see such a happy face on a little minifigure.
All right. I guess that's us now, right?
Okay.
No, me.
Oh, it's Kara. Sorry.
Hi,
Yes.
Cara, minifig chick.
Yes. How could we forget? Sorry.
I have Duplo Minnie Mouse.
Ah.
Oh, cute.
Hello.
Very cute. I need to get some of those new ones because they've got those sheep and the Pluto in those new
Yes.
sets.
And look at Minnie wearing that smock. They're all the rage.
All right. So now we've got it is us now. Okay.
Well,
There we go.
I've got a figure that's inspired by, but not, this isn't all the complete parts. But this is an Explorians figure.
Yes!
Right
Love it.
there.
Cool.
I think he would
Huge
normally have black gloves, and there's a cool mustache on the figure that I saw. But this one's pretty cheerful.
Okay, so for mine, I actually have 3. And the reason I have 3 is because I put these together out of the build a minifigure bin before everything went
before
down and we
times.
couldn't do it. And I can't take them out of the package because they all look so hilarious together. So I kind of did my own Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah,
Oh my God.
nice.
Oh my gosh, they're so cute.
Right? It was like, but of course, I had to give them all some kind of like horrifying weapon.
Absolutely.
Sarah
Yeah.
makes me think of Loki
I
now,
was like,
too.
that poor Lego store employee was like, what is going on here?
they're used to me at this point. But yeah, I love these things. And I just can't bear to take them out of the package because I can't bear to take them out of the package.
Oh,
Sorry, everybody. Yeah. All right.
Yay, Alex 23 and your sig fig.
Well, on that note, we will. On that trumpet note, we will say goodbye. Thank you, Maria and Philip, for coming and joining us today so much. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Internet sensation Brooks O'Brien, for stopping by and showing us your excellent build. No matter what you say,
She was terrified.
She was terrified. No matter what you say, I thought it was delightful, as did everyone else. Thank you, Moto, Blair, Holly, and Kara, Minifig Chick, for coming and joining us today. We will be back. I will be back on Tuesday on Twitch for the Raid Train, and then we will be back on Friday for our regular show, kind of getting back into a regular schedule again after all the crazy changing and jobs and vacations and wormholes and all of it.
Oh, and we have a challenge going right now.
And we do. Yes, we have a challenge going right now. It's a 2-week challenge, and it is the Hobby Habitats Challenge. You can make a habitat for your sig fig that is anywhere from the standard 8x8 habitat all the way up to a 16x16. And we want to see you doing your hobby that is not Lego.
Not Lego.
So any hobby that you have that is not Lego, we want to see a little build of your whatever hobby that happens to be. I know we all have other things going on. Lego does definitely kind of tend to take over. But, I've still got my 3D printer. I've still got my knitting needles. So there are definitely hobbies to be had. So once again, thank you, everybody on the panel. Thank you, everybody in the chat. And don't forget, until we see you next time, to stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, wear that mask when and where you still need to, and we will see you next time. Oh, and get that vaccine as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
In the words of
Bye.
Wilfred, au revoir.
wow.